Good day. This is Dimitri Lascaris coming to you from Athens, Greece on June 12, 2026 for Reason to Resist. Today, I'm going to talk to you at a high level, or at least I will aspire to talk to you at a high level about what is happening in West Asia, and in particular, in the latest round of peace negotiation, Kabuki theater, which yet again has reached a frenzied pitch. I had planned to show you all sorts of videos and images, reports from Axios and from the Iranian media about the back and forth in this Hollywood C-grade movie, but I changed my mind at the 11th hour because I just couldn't stand it anymore. I kind of was feeling like I was giving far too much respect to this travesty, this absurd spectacle, and that it would probably be more useful for my audience if I offered you some kind of overarching reflections about what is going on and how I think we should respond to it as citizens of conscience. Now, before I get into it, I just want to update you on my activities over the last few days. I left Lebanon and returned to Greece on Wednesday, on June 10th. I would have liked to have stayed in Lebanon and to have continued my on-the-ground reporting, but I had made a prior commitment a couple of months ago to join Norwegian political scientist Glenn Deason for a discussion about the status and ills of Western hegemony in Oslo, Norway. This was an event which was kindly and very wonderfully organized by members of the Peace and Justice Party in Norway, and particularly Terence Bain. If you're listening, Terence, thank you very much for your hospitality and your professionalism and your camaraderie. Last night I was in Oslo. I flew out of Athens yesterday, the day after I returned to Greece from Lebanon. And last night I was in a cafe with it was a large, well, for the size of the venue, it was a large audience and a very engaged, kind audience, inspiring audience, I must say, along with Glenn Deason and Terence, talking about, the crimes of Western governments and the inexorable decline of the Western supremacists who rule us. And then today I came back to Greece, and I have some business here I need to attend to before returning to Canada later this month. And on my way from Oslo to Athens, I collected all the information I wanted to share with you, including videos of resistance strikes and reports from Axios and Al Jazeera and the Iranian media about the status of negotiations, with the objective of, persuading you that we need to be paying our attention to something else. I'm going to get into that in a moment. But before I do that, a couple of things. I just want to point out that my friend and colleague Rami Yahya remains in Lebanon. He'll continue to do reporting there on the genocidal war on Lebanon. And also want to thank Laith Marouf and his producer Ali for being such good guides. Incredible. Really, they take risks virtually every day. I go in, I parachute in for a week here and a week there. And as dangerous as the situation is, it really is nothing compared to what they have to deal with on a daily basis. And so my love and thanks go out to them as well. And so with that, also, of course, I want to remind you that if you find this video to be informative, please like and share it. And if you're not a subscriber to Reason to Resist, please do become one. We're now at about 181,000. We're rapidly moving towards our goal of 200,000 subscribers before the end of the summer, which would be or will be the 2-year anniversary of the founding of Reason to Resist. And thank you for all your support, whether you're a subscriber, whether you're a donor. Just the fact that you're watching and you're engaging with us means a great deal. So let me sort of give you a summary of what has gone on in the last 48 hours. Much of this may be known to you already. So Trump warned, I think 2 nights ago, or maybe it was yesterday morning, I can't remember precisely when, that he was going to deliver a massive blow to Iran, because Iran had been dragging its feet on the negotiations. And then hours later, Taco did what he always does. He chickened out again and announced that he wasn't going to obliterate Iran, or whatever, genocidal verbiage he happened to use this time, because yet again we were on the precipice of another historic peace deal. And with that, there was a frenzy of media attention, and people started parsing very carefully what the foreign minister of Iran was saying, and then there were reports in the Iranian media about the position of the Iranian government with respect to these negotiations. And Netanyahu was making, as usual, hyper-belligerent noises about how all of this was not going to deter him from acting independently to defend the sovereignty and the security of the genocidal entity Israel. But the bottom line is this: by all indications, the parties remain miles apart. So according to the Iranian media, and this may or may not be accurate, it's possible, as some people are speculating on social media, that there are people in Iran who are leaking information to the Iranian media with the purpose or the goal of sabotaging the talks, or at least putting pressure on the Iranian negotiators to take a harder line. I can't really tell you if that is in fact what is going on here. All I can do is report to you what is being said by the Iranian media, and what is being said by the Iranian media is that the position of the Iranian government remains essentially the same, which is that there's going to have to be a complete ceasefire in all fronts. So that language clearly would encompass not only Lebanon, but also Palestine. There's going to have to be an unfreezing of assets. Iran is going to remain in control of the Strait of Hormuz. Iran is not making any commitments to give up nuclear enrichment or its enriched uranium. There are going to have to be reparations paid, although the amount is unclear. And the one thing which I didn't see in today's reports from the Iranian media is a demand from Iran that the U.S. vacate its military bases from the Persian Gulf. But the way things are going in this war, it's entirely possible that the U.S. is going to have to do that anyways, regardless of any demands that Iran may or may not make. And I'll come back to that in a moment. When this report came out from the media, Donald Trump's head exploded, and he said, "Oh no, these are all lies, and this is not our position." And he continues publicly to maintain a maximalist stance. To this very moment, and this is really the only thing I think that matters when you weigh up what is going on here, there has yet to be a statement on the record by anybody in the U.S. government who is authorized to speak on behalf of the Trump regime that the U.S. government is prepared to accept any of the demands of Iran. Forget about all the demands. There isn't even a recognition or acknowledgement that they're prepared to accept a single demand. So there's no acknowledgement that they're prepared to unfreeze Iranian assets at the outset of this, second phase of the negotiations, which is what Iran has demanded. The amount that would have to be unfrozen is apparently still being negotiated, but they're not even accepting the Trump regime that they're going to have to, that they will unfreeze anything, not even $1 billion. Now, there's been a lot of speculation that there's a side deal and the UAE has provided some billions and they're going to characterize this as a loan, and Trump is going to claim he doesn't have anything to do with it. But it's just speculation. It's just innuendo. It's just rumor. We don't really have any evidence that the UAE or Qatar or any other Gulf autocracy is sliding money to the Iranians, which is kind of a proxy for unfreezing its assets, and that Trump, with a wink and a nod, is saying, okay, you do that, but I'm going to deny that it has anything to do with the unfreezing of assets. There's no evidence that this has actually happened. No credible evidence. It's just all just rumor, innuendo, and claims and assertions being made by people who won't even go on the record for some reason. We never are told why they won't go on the record. We might be told that they're not authorized to speak, but why aren't they authorized to speak? We're never told that. We're never even told what department of the government do they come from. Are they from the military? Are they from the Foreign Affairs Ministry? Are they from, the executive? We're not even given a modicum of information to try to, assess for our own satisfaction what credibility these people actually have. I'm focusing here on the public, on the record statements of the Iranian government and of the Trump regime. And there is no overlap, even until now, between the negotiating positions that they have publicly taken. And instead of actually indicating that they have some common ground on the record, what they're doing is basically sniping at each other in the international media, which, by the way, is no way to conduct a negotiation. Because, if Trump says, for example, the Iranians are desperate to make a deal, well, this is obviously going to be embarrassing to the Iranian government and force them to come out and take some belligerent position to rebut the suggestion that they're weak and that they're desperate and that they're about to cave in. This type of behavior is inimical to a resolution of a conflict. How do I know this? Because for 30 plus years of my legal career, this is what I did. I did dispute resolution and negotiation of complex, high stakes litigation. I don't claim to be the world's greatest negotiator. I'm not Donald Trump. I'm not writing books called The Art of the Deal or what have you. Okay, but this is something about which I know a good deal because I devoted over 30 years of my professional life to it. And real negotiators, serious professionals, do not behave this way. And I don't blame the Iranian government for it. The Iranian government, to its credit, has tried to be discreet, has tried to maintain a certain level of professionalism and confidentiality in these discussions, understanding full well that this is more likely to result in a resolution than the kind of bombastic public humiliation that Trump constantly engages in. But they've been forced by Trump's amateurish behavior and extraordinarily arrogant conduct to come out and publicly, repeatedly rebut what Trump has said with their own belligerent statements. If I was in their position, I would probably do the same thing because I would have no alternative. I wouldn't want the people of Iran to think that I'm caving in, nor would I want my allies or friends on the world stage to think that I'm caving in when in fact that's not true. So it's amateur hour, folks. This is not a real negotiation. This is just a straight up farce. It's absurd that we're attaching so much importance to this. Now, why did Trump pull the plug on his threat to, bomb Iran into the Stone Age? He didn't use that language this particular time, but he did use very menacing language. Well, I think, he pulled the plug for a few reasons. And I'll say straight up, I can't say definitively that these are the reasons, but I think that this is the most plausible interpretation of what happened during the last 24 hours. First of all, and as I've said many times, he's faced by a political conundrum. He promised to be the president of peace. He has turned out to be the president not only of war, but of genocidal war. He's burning the whole world down to the ground. And polls show that a majority of the Americans are very unhappy with this. They think that this war should never have been started to begin with, and they want it to be brought to an end post haste. So he's playing to that audience. He's trying to make himself seem like the adult in the room when in fact he wants to continue the war. And so he keeps saying, yes, I'm on the cusp of this, and I'm on the cusp of that, and I'm doing everything that I can, and it's going to be a wonderful peace deal. And it never turns out to be true, ever. How many times have we been through this? The CNN just, actually, I am going to show you this video. I was going to dispense with all of the visual aids this evening, but I think this one is something that actually merits a look from all of us.
Major points of agreement. They want to make a deal. And we are very willing to make a deal.
Well, I think we're going to end it. I can't tell you for sure when they want to make a deal so badly. You have no idea how badly they want to make a deal.
They want to make a deal so badly. I do see a deal in Iran. We were very close to a deal.
I think it's close to over, yeah. I mean, I view it as very close to over.
It's looking very good that we're going to make a deal with Iran, and it's going to be a good deal. This process should go very quickly. We're going to end that war very quickly. They want to make a deal so badly. We think we're close to a deal, and that's okay. We're in the final throes of what will be a very, very good deal.
Today makes 39 times that he has said something like that.
39 motherfucking times. All right. How many times does Lucy have to pull the football before Charlie Brown stops kicking the fucking football? I mean, seriously, folks. What is wrong with people that they're taking this seriously? Do we need more evidence at this stage that Donald Trump is a bald-faced liar and that he has no interest in peace? For God's sakes. Now, I admit, and in fact, I've said myself that it's going to come a certain point in time when the U.S. economy is screaming in so much pain that Trump may actually finally do the right thing and make serious concessions to Iran. But we're not even close to that point yet. Donald Trump himself is going out and saying shit like, I don't care about inflation, the cost of living, what does that bother me? All of this is going to work out. The oil is going to be flowing again. I've stolen 100 million barrels of Iranian oil. I flooded the market with oil and blah, 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 blah. So he, I don't think, is feeling anywhere near the pressure that he would need to feel in order to stop pulling the football from Charlie Brown. He is going to continue down this path until the U.S. economy is a mess and the global economy is either caving or completely collapsed. And even then, this psychopath, this insane lunatic, might not be willing to make any concessions to Iran. But all evidence, credible, persuasive, independent evidence, points to one conclusion, and that is that Donald Trump is not even close to that point yet. He would have to be truly desperate to overcome that instinct that he has to portray himself as the greatest winner in the history of winners, as the master of the universe, as the unparalleled best president of any country since the beginning of all time. That is his megalomaniacal tendency, obsession, in fact. And making any of these concessions to Iran would be a humiliating defeat for this megalomaniac. So I don't know that he's ever going to get to the point where he'll make any concessions to Iran. It may be necessary in order for us to bring an end to this catastrophe for Donald Trump somehow, some way to be removed from power. Hopefully there'll be an impeachment after he gets wiped out in the midterms, and the Democrats will finally have the good sense to put somebody in office. I don't have any hope in that regard. Let me be very clear. But maybe they'll finally have the good sense to put somebody in office who will bring an end to this crazy war and the genocide in Gaza and the destruction of Lebanon. But really, there's no reason at this stage, no credible reason to believe the peace deal is imminent. Now, they might sign something. I'm not denying there might be some piece of paper that says this thing and that thing, and Donald Trump puts his John Hancock on it. But it's a totally different question about whether or not this will ultimately result in peace. Even if you accept the reports that we're hearing from the corporate media and from some outlets in the Gulf autocracies, and from some commentators, quite a few of them actually in the independent media, even if you accept that the signing of some kind of a deal is imminent, it's going to be nothing more than really a framework for further negotiation on the issues that have proven to be an insuperable obstacle to peace time and time again, like the nuclear issue. Just 2 days ago, Trump said, 2 days ago, he said that we are on the verge of doing a deal that will bring an end to Iran's nuclear enrichment. An end to it. That's what he said. The Iranians have never indicated that they're willing to give up their right under international law to enrich uranium, especially when those genocidal, satanic psychopaths in Israel have a nuclear arsenal and are not even members of the Nuclear Non-Proliferation Treaty. So that alone should convince you, just the distance, the vast disparity between the negotiating positions of Iran and the United States on the nuclear file should convince you that there is a high probability that even if they sign some kind of a framework for negotiation, which results in a temporary reopening of the Strait of Hormuz and a lifting of the blockade on Iran on a temporary basis, and maybe even a little bit of money flowing somehow, some way to Iran in lieu of receiving its frozen assets, that somehow, some way, both Trump and Netanyahu are going to find a way to sabotage this deal. If not on the nuclear issue, on some other issue, and then we're going to be back into a hot war. So in a best case scenario, and it's possible, I acknowledge it, they signed some piece of toilet paper which says, we're going to reopen the Strait of Hormuz and we're going to lift the blockade. We're going to be back into a situation of existentially dangerous belligerence in very short order. And if you don't believe me, just look at the statements that are coming out of the Israeli government. The Netanyahu regime is doing everything it can to destroy any reasonable expectation that this is going to result in a lasting peace. They don't want any concessions to be made to Iran. They have remained very consistent in this regard. I will at least commend them for their consistency. They're consistent in saying they want to destroy Iran. Destroy it. not just change the regime, they want to destroy it. And they've never wavered from that position. And rational people would have no reason to believe that Trump is actually going to do what is necessary to rein in the rabid Israeli attack dog by telling them in a credible, persuasive manner that he is going to pull all support, all U.S. support for these psychopaths if they don't end their slaughter in Lebanon and Gaza. And right now, as I speak, that is exactly what is going on. The Israelis continue to carry out heinous war crimes against the civilian populations of Lebanon and Palestine as I record this video. That alone should tell you that this is a fool's errand. And this leads me to the overarching point that I want to make. You know, I went down to Lebanon for the past week and had the privilege of meeting all along the front line some truly heroic people. For example, when I was in Nabatea 2 days ago with Laith Marouf and Rami Yahya and Free Palestine TV's producer Ali, we had the opportunity to interview Ali Spaiti, who is an RT International producer and cameraman who was with RT International war correspondent Steve Sweeney when they were almost blown to bits by an Israeli munition that was fired at a bridge in South Lebanon that the Israelis had already destroyed. They had no reason to strike it again. As Ali explains in my interview, I posted this interview, by the way, yesterday morning. In that same trip to Nabatea, we had the opportunity to interview the head of the Nabatea Civil Defense, who lost his son to these psychopaths, and who nonetheless is out on the front line every day trying to save people at great risk to himself. All over Lebanon and all over Palestine and in Iran on the ground, there are people doing, and in Syria, by the way, and in Iraq and in Yemen, in all places where there is resistance, there are people whose names you never hear who are doing extraordinary work, and people whose names you will never learn of from the corporate media in the West, who are being obliterated, tortured, tormented by the Israeli regime with the full black backing, not only of the Trump regime, but of pretty much all Western governments. That is what we should be focusing on, my friends. Okay? Now, I mentioned that part of the reason why we're being treated to this kabuki theater is because Trump wants to convince American voters in advance of the midterms that he's trying really hard. He's giving it the old college try to bring an end to this crazy war. Well, another reason why they're doing that, in my opinion, is because all of this fixation on these pointless and amateurish, ludicrous negotiations, they don't even deserve to be called negotiations, is sucking up the oxygen in the public discourse. And instead of focusing on what these monsters are doing to the people of Palestine and to ordinary people in Lebanon and to ordinary people in Iran and Yemen and Syria and Iraq, wherever there is any kind of resistance to their sadistic hegemony, instead of focusing on that and on all the heroic people who are doing what they can to stop this and to protect the innocent victims of these monsters, we're constantly engaged in color commentary. This is not a fucking football game, man. Okay? This is not some kind of pointless, exercise on some field somewhere with some muscular, testosterone-ridden, athletes are running around trying to put a ball in a hoop or a ball between two metal posts as they're doing in the World Cup. And then we have some retired jocks up in the commentary booth talking endlessly about inanities and statistics that mean nothing. It's not a football game. Okay? People are treating this monstrosity as a fucking football game. This genocide is not a sport. Color commentary is not what you should be looking for about some pointless negotiation. It's just a sick game. You should be focusing your attention, my friends, on the people who are suffering, the people who are being tortured, the people who are being raped, the people who are being blown to bits, people who are being burned alive, starved to death, who are seeing their homes demolished for nothing other than being the wrong ethnicity or having the wrong religion, and all the heroes out there, the nameless heroes, who are working indefatigably every day at great risk themselves to save and protect the victims of these genocidal monsters. That's what we should be focused upon, not on this soap opera. And that is, I think, a big part of the reason why they do this, why they engage in this endless kabuki theater, to suck up the oxygen in the public discourse and to prevent us from focusing on their crimes. And there are two other reasons why I think they're constantly, acting out these roles in this C-grade Hollywood movie. One of them is the United States has run out of munitions. When Donald Trump says, we're close to a deal, and that's why I decided not to carry out this massive attack. Well, the U.S. government has been expending its limited munitions at an absolutely astonishing rate ever since the NATO proxy war began in Ukraine in February 2022. They've been dropping bombs willy-nilly all over the damn place. In Ukraine, in Russia, in Lebanon, in Palestine, in Syria, in Yemen, in Iraq, in Iran. They're almost out. And they don't want you to know about that. They don't want you to know that the best that they can do now is, mount some 2 or 3 day military operation, try to put a little hurt on Iran, and see if they can extract more concessions from them that way. I don't think they have the capacity to do what they did in March and April because their munitions are so expended. They're never going to admit that to you. So they're lying. They're telling you why the reason they stopped bombing is because there's another peace deal around the corner. The real reason is they just can't do to Iran what they did in March and April because they've run out of weapons. Remember that they have to have enough weapons in reserve for a major war against a pure enemy like Russia or China. So I think they've pretty much reached the end of their tether. The military-industrial complex can't compete with that of the major adversaries of the Western hegemon. And so the best they can do is, occasionally inflict a little pain here, a little pain there on Iran. It's very easy for them to continue obliterating, Lebanon and Palestine because they don't have effective air defenses. They don't have anywhere near the potency in terms of their ballistic and other missiles. So they're focusing what limited munitions they have on wiping out the civilian populations of Palestine and Lebanon, occasionally trying to, inflict some pain on Iran. But I don't think they have the capacity to do more than that to Iran. And that's part of the reason why they keep lying to you about there being a peace deal around the corner. And another reason why they pulled the plug on their latest aggression is because Iran whacked them hard. There's credible evidence. I'm not going to take you through all of the, the photographs, the satellite images, because frankly, I just fed up with this whole nonsense. But you can see them on X. You can see them in the alternative media. There's credible evidence that Iran took out a very important radar system and Patriot that's necessary for the use of Patriots in the region of West Asia. That radar system was situated in Bahrain, and also that Iran struck hard a U.S. airbase in Jordan with ballistic missiles and may have destroyed, I can't confirm this, a number of F-35s or other advanced U.S. warplanes. And this is a video that I do think is worth showing to you. Here is a video which is reportedly was reportedly taken as ballistic missiles were coming into that U.S. airbase in Jordan. And there you can see an interceptor going up. There's another one. In all, there are going to be 8 interceptors going up, and now you can see, at least I'm able to see 4 incoming missiles. They're hard to make out. They're just in the center of the screen. They're coming down 4 white lights. And as I can tell, the best that I can tell, only one of them gets intercepted, and a total of 8 interceptors are shot upwards, and the other 3 get through. And you can see plumes of smoke coming up already from the airbase. So after this attack occurred, and it may well have been devastating, Sky News actually put out a report about this. The Military Watch magazine put out a report about this. It may be that the Iranians succeeded in putting a serious hurt on that U.S. airbase in Jordan, which they've had trouble targeting in the past. So you combine that with what happened in Bahrain and the other strikes of the Iranian military. I think a fair inference to draw from the evidence that's available is that the U.S. yet again got whacked hard within the past 24 to 36 hours. And that too was a reason why Donald Trump stopped the bombing. But this, endless show about a purported peace deal around the corner is distracting people from the real reasons for which he chickened out yet again. So I'm going to conclude my report today by imploring all of you out there one more time. Please do not allow yourselves to be distracted from the crimes of the United States and Israel's other Western backers with all of this hot air. It's just clouding the vision. Look through it all, focus on the victims, focus on those people who are doing heroic work on the front line to protect them. That should be our overarching concern at this particular point in time. With that, I'm signing off today from Athens, Greece, for Reason to Resist on June 12, 2026.